The Vegas Golden Knights currently sit one spot out of the Stanley Cup playoffs, with only 15 games remaining and a fairly favorable schedule for the Vegas Golden Knights. What will it take for them to get a spot in the Stanley Cup playoffs? Currently, Vegas sits 1 point behind the Stars. Vegas has 74 points. The Stars have 75. The next wildcard spot has 78 points. And if Vegas were to want to take one of the top 3 spots in the Pacific Division, they'd have to beat out the Oilers, who currently have 77, and the Kings have 79. Flames pretty much are a lock to for sure be in the top 3, maybe not the number 1, but at this point they have 86 points, so they're pretty high above both the Blues. Well, not the Blues, my apologies. The Kings and the Oilers, which are the other people in the division, and also the Knights. So the Flames pretty much solidified their number 1 spot. So Vegas is going to be searching for either a wild card spot or that second or third place in the Pacific Division. Now, like I said, there's only 15 games left, and it's pretty favorable schedule remaining. So what I'm going to be talking about in this video is the remaining games, what my prediction is, win-loss, things of that nature, about how many points I think Vegas would need to make it into the playoffs, and a couple other things. Nothing really too far out there. It's pretty straightforward, especially with how short the games are and some of the injury people that are returning. It's going to be pretty simple, and there's not really a lot of room for error if we're all being very honest with 15 games remaining and being outside of the playoffs. Especially since you're outside, you really got to win every game that you can. If you were in, maybe you'd have a little bit of buffer, but it's a very different story from the outside. So my name is John. This is the Sports Advocate. Thank you for tuning in. If you're a returning viewer or this is your first time, I hope that I can make this an enjoyable experience for you. So I'm going to go ahead and get right into this. One quick thing, if you are a Vegas Golden Knights fan, I just recently posted the other day the first episode of a 3-part series for the Vegas Golden Knights, their expansion year. The first episode is about the draft and the regular season, all the important events, some of like the craziness that's involved. In the next coming days here, I'll have the second part, which will be the playoffs and the Stanley Cup itself, and then what Vegas has done since that first year. And then the third part will be about why other expansion teams weren't successful as the Vegas Golden Knights were in their first season. So go ahead and look out for that. If you're seeing this a couple days after, a week after, whatever, this has released, then it's likely that it's all out. Go ahead and click on that. But that's the video that really made me want to start this. So I put a lot of effort into it, a lot of time. So I think it's a very good video. Go ahead and check that out, please. I would very much appreciate it. So let's go ahead and get into this. Go ahead and like, comment down below if you think Vegas can find a way to get into the playoffs. Dislike if you don't enjoy it, and go ahead and subscribe, please, so you can catch those videos coming up for the Vegas Golden Knights and the rest of it, whether it's basketball, football, or hockey, or whatever I decide to talk about. So let's get straight into this. One major thing that I have preached, and I think a lot of people have honestly preached, is that your goalie is the most important thing when you go into Stanley Cup playoffs. It's make or break with the goalie. Whatever team has the hottest goalie at the time in the playoffs is likely to make the deepest run, and that goes for Fleury in the first year of Vegas Golden Knights. That goes for last year, the Canadiens and Price. I mean, every single year you see it. Whatever goalie is playing the best, their team's probably going to make it the farthest, because no matter how good your offense is, everyone's in the playoffs. Everyone is good enough to be there, so their offense is probably very good. So it's just about getting the stops more than outscoring. I mean, does that make sense? No, because you have to score more to win the games, but it's a lot easier when your goalie is playing at the top of his game. And one thing with the Panda currently out on IR for the Vegas Golden Knights, Logan Thompson has stepped in. He's been a starter the past 5 games with 3 wins and 2 losses, and I just want to talk about his save percentage and his saves versus shots. If you didn't really realize, he's been a star these past 5 games, and I know it's very short section to compare it to, but Logan Thompson, it has 161 saves on 172 shots through these past 5 games. As a percentage, that's a .936. And if you didn't know, obviously throughout the whole season, he has not been that good. But like I was saying, a hot goalie is going to take you far. .936, if that were to be the average throughout the whole season, would be tied for first in the entire NHL. Logan Thompson, these past 5 games, has been the best goalie percentage-wise if that was throughout a whole season. Now, obviously, it's not throughout a whole season. I'm not saying Logan Thompson is the best goalie in the NHL. He's very far from it. But just to prove a point, he's been extremely productive on what he's been able to do. And with that being said, I will point out he did not start 6 games ago. I think it was versus the Jets. He did not start, but he did come in, and he had three goals on him within 10 shots. So that would have altered his save percentage, but I went based off of his starts the past 5 games, because when he went in, they were already down a ton with 4 goals being scored on Brossois before he even entered the game. So you got to argue that the team maybe wasn't playing as hard, or he didn't enter the game going like, oh, this might be too far out of reach and all that. And sure, that kind of sucks. You don't want a goalie to be like that, but it's bound to happen from time to time. So that's very important for this. We're going to go over the standings currently. The Golden Knights are at 74, and to overtake the Stars, the next one would overtake the Stars. So like I was saying earlier, you're 1 game out. Sure, you can make a little bit error, but you don't have a lot of room, especially with right behind the Golden Knights. The Jets have 72 and the Canucks have 71. So there's even a chance the Vegas could fall further down, which is not good news at all. So with 15 games remaining, and I'd say about 95 points is about what a team needs to make the playoffs. So you need 21 more points to get that. Again, it depends on how the rest of the league plays out. So 21 points, 15 games. You need at least 10 wins and 1 overtime loss. Obviously, you'd want better than that, but that would be the bare minimum. And through the last 15 games, 5 of the games are against teams that are in the playoffs, and 10 of them are against teams that are not in the playoffs. So if you're looking at that, sure, Vegas is outside of the playoffs. But if Vegas were to beat every team that was outside of the playoffs and and were to tie one of the teams that's in the playoffs, you're pretty much in the playoffs as the Vegas Golden Knights. One thing I do want to point out, though, real quick, is since the All-Star break, Vegas has had 15 points in 20 games. So 20 games, you'd be able to get a maximum of 40 points. So your point percentage is a .375. That is not good at all. And for Vegas to make the playoffs at this point, with 15 games remaining, and you need 21 points, that means you could have up to 30 points. They'd have to have a 700 points percentage, which isn't extremely difficult when you compare to the remainder of their schedule, but it is decently hard to attain throughout a whole season if you were to compare it to that. But we're going to run through the schedule real quick and why I don't think it's going to be too hard. So we're going to run through the schedule, and then I'll do quick predictions. Blackhawks, Kraken twice back-to-back, Canucks twice back-to-back, Coyotes, Canucks again, Flames, Oilers, Devils, Capitals, Sharks, Stars, Blackhawks, and the Blues. And like I said, only 5 of those teams in the remaining 15 games are in the playoffs, being the Flames, who are number 1 in the Pacific, the Oilers, who are 3rd in the Pacific, the Capitals, who I think are sitting at 3rd in their division, the Stars, who are a wild card, and the Blues, who I also believe are either 3rd or a wild card in their division. So even the competition that is in the playoffs isn't like amazing competition. It's not like you're going against Colorado Avalanche or things of that nature. Like it's it's even the best competition in the remaining 15 games isn't too far out there, which is very good news if you are Vegas and you need the 21 points or so to make the playoffs. So I'm going to run through my win-losses, predictions, things of that nature for these remaining games. I'll do a quick explanation on them, but it's going to be pretty quick. I don't really want this video to run super long. I'm assuming it'll still be about 18 minutes, and I feel like I've already ranted long enough. So I'm going to go ahead and get into it. I have a win for the Blackhawks right away. Fleury got traded to the Wild, and I just think it's pretty simple. So Blackhawks win, no Fleury. I got Kraken both games as a win. Vegas beat them twice already earlier in the season, and the Kraken only have 20-something wins on the season, so it's not like they're a great team. Obviously, they're an expansion, which goes into the series that I have currently coming out, but Vegas should win both of those games. So if you're looking at that, Vegas right now is on a pretty good win streak, 4 or 5 win streak. And then Vegas plays the Canucks back-to-back, and I do have, which sucks, but I have to be honest, I have a loss and then a win. And the reason I did that is I did a loss in the first game because it's at Vancouver, and then I did a win in the second game just because I think it's likely for the Canucks, especially since they're sitting on the edge of the playoffs, same as Vegas, that they're probably going to steal a game. And yeah, that sucks. Vegas already beat them earlier, and there's 3 more games right here. I think Vegas drops one of them, which sucks. But that's my explanation. So I got a loss on the first one against Canucks in Vancouver, and I got a win. And then against the Coyotes, I have a win. That's pretty simple. Next up, I got the Canucks, third game on the remaining schedule. I have a win on that one. So Vegas is going to play the Canucks 3 times within a 4-game period. I have 1 loss to them, 2 wins. Pretty good. Next up, I have the Flames. I do have a loss right there. Obviously, it's going to depend on who's in net for both teams. But with the Flames having 86 points at this current moment and still having a good chunk of games at that point, I think the Flames go ahead and pull a win on that one just to kind of solidify that top spot if there is contention at that very point. Next up, we have the Oilers, who, like I said, are sitting at 3rd in the Pacific and is who Vegas is probably shooting most for because they don't want to be in the wild card, if we're being honest. I have the Oilers was tough for me. The Oilers already won 2. Both games that Vegas has played. They've won both of them. So it makes you almost want to say, oh, Vegas is going to get swept. You know, maybe the Oilers win this one again just because how dominant the first 2 games were. But at the same time, you got to think if Vegas is good enough, which they are, maybe they steal a game right here. So I do have a win/loss here. I think this could be one of those overtime games, which will give Vegas a point, which they need at least 1 overtime game to get their 21 if they were to get 10 wins. So I do have the Oilers at a win or a loss. I'm not really sure on that. If I'm being honest, I think it leans towards either a big loss or an overtime loss, just because the 2 games prior in the season. Next up, got the Devils. That's a win. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. Then we got the Capitals. That's also a win or a loss. The Capitals did just play earlier, and they went and got a win. I think it was a shootout win. Alex O went and got the shootout win. That was a pretty good game. I listened to like 4 games today, and they were all very, very good games. There was an overtime game. There was the overtime shootout. There was a lot of good games today, which is very good news. I normally don't get time to listen to them, but I caught like 3 games that were just all about to end at the same time, and they were just far enough apart where I could listen to this one and then go to this one and this one. And that was about like 8, 9 o'clock. So I had a pretty good day for hockey. I wasn't really interested in any basketball today, but I was pretty happy. There's some good games today for hockey. And then I'll be listening tomorrow or watching, probably listening. I don't think it's on in my area, to the Vegas game against the Blackhawks. That's at 2 o'clock, a really early game, which sucks for me with my schedule. but I haven't missed more than 5 games this entire season. And the games I have missed is because I was at work. So Devils win, Capitals. I had to win or lose for the Capitals. That could also be an overtime one. If I had to lean one way, I do think Vegas wins that. If I had to lean one direction. What do I have down here written? Vegas. I don't even know what I was trying to say. Vegas already shut out the Capitals once this year. Okay. That's definitely what that says. So, yeah, I'll lean towards a win if Vegas already shut them out once. I wrote this like 4 hours ago and then watched the game, so sorry if there's a little bit of like disconnect here. Next up, I got the Sharks as a win. Sharks are pretty low. I think they're right above Seattle, so that one's a pretty easy one. I have Vegas beating the Sharks. Next up, I have the Stars, and I do have Vegas beating the Stars. I do, if I'm being honest. I think Vegas goes and beats Stars. Stars have a lot of depth at goalie, but I just think Vegas consistently finds a way to work around these good goalies and still get goals, and I think they're going to do it against Dallas, especially with Dallas just being 1 point above. I'm sure it's going to be tight the rest of the way. And if it's super tight like that, I think Vegas comes out with the win. They're very gritty, very good at battling. And at that point, I think Mark Stone's going to be back. And pretty much the whole team's going to be healed at that point. Probably around Leonard pretty soon around then. So I do have Vegas beating the Stars. Next up, we have the Blackhawks again. I have another win on that again. No Fleury, which is a big thing. Stars... Going back to the Stars real quick, Stars lost both the previous games this year, so that's also part of the reason why I'm leaning that way, is because Vegas already beat them twice this year, so that's very good. And then the Blues, the very last game of the season, I think at this point, when this game airs, it will already be pre-conceded whether Vegas is in or out of the playoffs, and that's going to be a big contributor to how hard they play and all that stuff. And I have the Blues winning it. I have Vegas losing to the Blues. And the Blues won both the previous games this year. So that is part of it. But I think at that point, the playoffs are going to be pretty much set. But I think if it comes to it and it's unknown, like if Vegas wins, they're in. If Vegas doesn't win, they're out. Then I think Vegas can win it pretty easily, for being honest, because all the injuries would be over at that point. But if it's already done, I think the Blues would come out on top. So, now that we got all that out of the way, we went through all our games. So with this current setup, I have 10 wins and 5 losses, which would give Vegas 20 points. So if 95 was the goal, technically Vegas would be out of the playoffs. But like I said, I got 2 spots right here that are win or loss. If both of them go to overtime, Vegas has more than they need. If one does, they have exactly what they need. If Vegas wins one of these games I had them losing, such as the Canucks or the Flames, any of these games, the Blues, then Vegas already has more than about what they need. And the 95 ballpark is just based on like previous years and things of that nature. And this video actually did come from when I was listening to the game last night. The announcers had brought it up. And I'm just like, oh, this is a good topic. I'm going to run with it. So, yeah. So I have Vegas ending with somewhere between 94 and 97 points, which probably, no matter what that is, if they win the games I expected them to win, we'll probably get them in the playoffs, no matter what. And last night's win was very important. So what I do want to bring up real quick is I'm leaning against this and look all cool, like, Vegas lately has played very good against very good competition. And they haven't played so good against bad competition. So am I saying that Vegas is playing to their competition? Yeah, kind of. They just beat the Predators, who are the number 1 spot in the wild card. And they just recently just beat the number 2 spot in the entire league. So Vegas is playing good against good competition, and that's going to be a big help for the remaining 15 games. You just got to hope that they outplay these lower tier competition instead of playing to their level, because that's where bad things are to come into play. And another thing, even with Logan Thompson having a 9.36 save percentage, he's not going to start all 15 games and still have that. He's definitely not going to start all 15 games. But, you're going to have Brossoit in, or hopefully Leonard comes back and he's good to go right away. I assume at some point he's going to end up needing surgery in this offseason, which is not good news at all. But Logan Thompson can't do it all. So you got to have a goalie step up if you do want Vegas to come out on top with all these wins. So thank you for tuning in. I know this video was a little long. It was more of a rant, and I did have a lot of statistics things written down because I had to have the order of the games and my prediction and all that set up. So sorry if I was looking down a lot. I hope the lights was pretty good. I see a little bit of shadow up here. My lights are down low. I don't have any lights out here, which kind of sucks. But thank you for tuning in. Go ahead and comment down below if you do think Vegas will find a way to make it in the playoffs. Look forward to that Vegas video that's dropping here in the next few days, and go look at the first one. Also on the 28th, I have a NBA video dropping about the length of the season. Here soon, I'm going to have an NFL video about the AFC West, and who I think the best is, the big moves, all that stuff. There's a lot of stuff coming out. I skipped a couple days there working on the big Vegas series, but I plan to upload about once every day again, so expect that. I know I'm still extremely small, and I'm not getting a whole lot of views, but I do hope that I'm somehow reaching somebody, and I hope even if it's like 1 in 20 viewers is reaching the end right here, I very much appreciate that one. So thank you if you did tune in this long. Go ahead and give a like, dislike. Give me some comments down below telling me what I can change, what I can make better, anything, what you would like to hear me talk about, anything like that. Thank you so much for tuning in. My name is John. This is the Sports Advocate. I hope I taught you something. I hope it put a smile on your face, and you guys be safe out there.